My name is Veronica, and I do work for Idea Exchange. My role is the community outreach and events liaison. I'd like to introduce Lily. So I have had the pleasure to meet Lily over the summer, and she is just a wonderful, wonderful person. She has over 20 years of experience in leadership, people development, change, transformation, management, and continuous improvement in various environments, businesses, and industries. Lily is just a compassionate person and is always looking to help people who are in need, and she is the founder of Our Inner Sparks. So Lily, if you want to pop on up. I'm going to pass.
Hello. Thank you very much, Veronica, for that introduction. Yes, as Veronica said, I am the founder and executive director of Our Inner Sparks. Our Inner Sparks is actually a social enterprise. We provide products and services that help empower people transform and grow, both businesses and individuals, to help them discover, ignite, and harvest their inner sparks. We work with them to remove self-limiting factors and help them achieve their fullest potentials. Part of our mission, and we actually dedicate a portion of our profits for social programs, as this one, to empower and enable others as well. Especially, we focus on women in need in situations of disability or poverty with accessible and quality development opportunities. So Ignite Our Inner Sparks seminar is actually one of these programs where we help others. And we have been doing this in partnership with Idea Exchange. They've been so gracious to host these events with us. And we are also partnering with various coaches and professionals in the community as well to bring you a lot of relevant self-care, self-development, and self-actualization topics that will help you navigate through as well as beyond COVID situations. So based on our previous surveys, you have told us that you're very interested in more coverage around creativity. So today we've invited various female artists in our communities to discuss how they have been maintaining and expanding their creativity through COVID. We will also be discussing challenges as artists during these difficult times of isolation and restrictions. So with that said, let me just introduce our panelists for tonight. First, we have Karen. Karen Agro. She is a director of Agro Health Associates Inc. and Karen Agro Guitar. Karen is a classical guitarist who continues to participate in international guitar festivals and playing in master classes with renowned guitarists. She is an active performer at various venues, including corporate events, formal functions, retirement communities, online concerts, and yoga classes. During the day, Karen doubles as a pharmacist and healthcare consultant, running a pharmaceutical consulting firm for over 2 decades. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you very much, Lily.
Next, we have Connie Juan. She is a Canadian Screens Award nominated Toronto-based film and TV actress and creator. Connie starred in award-winning web series Tokens in 2019, Mayflowers in 2018, and The Boys in this year, 2020. She has been making sparks on and off the screens. Connie has also been leading others to live a fully expressed, authentic life. Welcome, Connie.
Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Then let's meet Jennifer Lyon. She's a professional photographer and owner and operator of J. Lyon Photography. Jennifer specializes in virtual portraits and commercial branding and product imageries for small businesses. Her passion is to work with her clients to create best possible content for their business goals and creative projects. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, everyone.
Finally, we have Jennifer Tung. She is an acclaimed musician and versatile artist who performs and teaches vocal and piano. Jennifer is an active part of Toronto's music scenes and holds many leadership positions. She is a vocal faculty at the Glen Gould School, artistic director of Toronto City Opera, assistant conductor of Mississauga Symphony Orchestra and Mississauga Symphony Youth Orchestra, as well as the artistic director of Mississauga Children's Choir. Jennifer is a leading visionary and educator in classical music.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Lily. Thanks for having me tonight.
Thank you, ladies, for joining us this evening for our exciting panel discussion regarding creativity and how to expand them. We will go through a list of questions that we have with each of our panelists, and then we will have some time at the end. If we have some time at the end as well, we would like to open that for questions from the audience as well. So please feel free to submit your questions to Veronica or myself, or just openly on the chat, and we will get to them. So why don't we just begin? We have everyone here. As we are experiencing COVID and how it's changing the whole world, and it's changing everyone and how we do things, and that does not exclude artists. In fact, many would argue that the isolation and restrictions that we're experiencing and continue to experience are hitting the performing artists the hardest. So our first question is, what is your creative channel, and how has COVID made it difficult in your specific creative journey? So let's start with Karen first.
Thanks, Lily. Well, my creative channel is obviously classical guitar, and it spans classical and contemporary and Spanish, so reaching a pretty broad audience. And I would say, how has COVID made it more difficult is that just before COVID, I was really finding my way in terms of performing. As you mentioned in my introduction, I'm a healthcare professional, but I also have this passion for guitar that I've played since I've been 5 years old, and I promised myself I would always go back to it. And so I was just making that journey, embarking on that journey, had been playing with yoga studios live for fundraising events, running a open mic concert series through the Idea Exchange in person, playing for mindfulness sessions, in live, in person, and all of a sudden I had all these events lined up, and then COVID hit, and it was just, I just didn't know what to do. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I'm just starting this journey, and it's like almost ended. I'll leave it at that, but that's how I felt around March 12th, 13th.
In the middle of March, where we
Friday
all
the
got
March 13th, I just went, this can't be happening. This is just where I've actually started to really take off. And now I felt grounded, but I'll come back to how I changed.
Thank you, Karen. Connie, I know you and I met actually just around that time when COVID started hitting and shutting down. Why don't you tell us what you've done? What your creative channel is, and what has COVID done to make it more difficult for you?
So I'm an actor, and this year was really fun at the beginning because I was nominated for Canadian Screen Award and like ACTRA Awards, so it was all very exciting. And then COVID hit, and I was like, oh, I guess like everything that I worked towards just doesn't matter in a way. So that's why. So it was kind of hard for me, because I put all of my worth on something that's outside of myself and outside of my artistry, you know, on like award shows and like the glamour of it, and my ego was just like not having it. So so what COVID, how that's made it more difficult is that of course I can't go to the studio anymore. I can't just like be with actors, and actors, I think it's important for us to be together, right? But I've made it work, so we can talk about it later.
Yeah, and I remember being, because you got nominated for the award, but the award actually didn't happen, right? So it got delayed, and then eventually went online. But
it did happen, but it was just like, oh, I was dress shopping, like I almost thought, I was like, come on, I live for this, the glam life.
Yeah. All right. Jennifer Tung.
So my venue is classical music, but it's a very specific, kind of classical music. I mean, aside from teaching, the music directorships that I work on are all companies that does ensemble things, and one of which is opera, which is probably one of the art classical art forms that involve the most number of people, singers, you know, sometimes dancers, but crew, you know, lighting, stage director, musicians, and so of course the same, you know, like with choir. So ensemble, unfortunately, not being able to get together in person because of COVID means that we can't really do anything ensemble together. And right now, I mean, there's some technology, you know, like online that allows some music making, but it's very, very limited. And so that becomes sort of the major issue when people can't get together and make music in person or together in the same space, which is what the big challenge that COVID has brought to the field that I'm in. So.
Right. What about from the leadership perspective? Because I know you take on those leadership roles. Was there any other challenges that you faced as a leader?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, trying to really continue to have some capacity of still providing, you know, like music and really hiring, you know, like musicians that are out there. And so trying to, you know, make sure that we can continue to work on projects that allow us to be able to employ the artists or keep artists, you know, like at work, and also continuing the education, you know, for the kids, you know, that we're working with.
Right. So Jennifer Lyon, what do you think from your perspective?
What do I think? Well, was the original question what my creative channel is?
Yeah, the creative channel, and how did the COVID change, or what was the difficulty that you had with COVID?
What did COVID do to me?
Yes.
My creative channel is photography, and I mean, that could be anything because you can take a picture of anything. What I was doing in KW before COVID was community building, and I worked with a lot of female entrepreneurs, and I did a lot of empowering portraits, collaborations, anything anyone wanted to do. If they wanted to work with me, I was willing to try, and we would do these like amazing networking events with like great women from all over the city. We had one where I did empowering portraits, and we had ice cream and cookie dough, and we made like amazing connections. And then COVID happened, and Karen, very similar theme. Like, I was working in nonprofit, and I was like a manager, but I was like on the side doing photography, and I'm like, oh, I love it. I can't get enough of this. And in January, I had left my job, and I was about to like dive headfirst into a photography career. I had like all these bookings ready to go and all these great ideas. And then it was just like, no, pump the brakes. Like, this can't happen. So much of photography is like being in your face, you know, and like being with you and being with groups of people. And so that just like all stopped. And at first I was like, it's not going to be long. Like, I'll work on my website and everything will be great. And yeah, it was just like, nope.
Yeah, I echo that too. I started our Inner Sparks last year, a day ago, so October 19th. And same thing, you know, and you think that you started something new and you put wholeheartedly into this and you put all of your effort into it, and boom, COVID happens and you're not doing things that you wanted to and planned to. One of the things I actually miss is doing recording in Idea Exchange. Idea Exchange has creative studios where there are professional equipment and software. And I know the first few episodes when I came out with the products, people were like, wow, where were you recording? Because the sound's great. I have to say the sound on our podcast have not matched those conditions ever again since COVID, but so I'm definitely looking forward to one day going back to it. But we'll talk a little bit more about the advantage of now doing it online as well, right? I'm not sure if people know this, but a lot of folks do know that I actually am a part of a sports blogging brand as well, Sharon Lil. And one of the difficulties is all sports events were shut down. So none of the things that we were doing before, capturing sports events, plus accessing to players, access to fans, bystanders, none of that is possible anymore. So anyway, that's been a lot of challenges, and both from the business and the vlogging thing, arrangements, I had to really go back to the drawing board and really brainstorm what is our creative value in the community and what else can we do in the current situation. So how quickly were you able to pivot, and what was your thinking process, and what did you end up doing differently? Let's start with Connie on that one.
So so it was March, and then I just decided to go back home, live with my parents in Windsor, Ontario. So I actually went back there for 6 months to spend time with my family. And there it was so great because we're in the suburbs and the big backyard. So the industry kind of freaked out, like the film TV industry freaked out. So, and then I was also freaking out too. And then all the trauma from like the civil unearthing too. So I just took time off. I just like messaged my agents and I said, I'm booked out until further notice. Like, I don't want to be performing right now. Like, I can't, because there's too much pain in the world going on. And then I was just able to just go for walks and really be with my inner child. I think that's what I ended up listening to. And then so from there, I bought a ukulele. And then I started playing the ukulele and I started singing. And I think that's something that I always wanted to do since I was a little girl, but never had time. I started drawing again because that was something that I always loved to do as well. And I just really took away my to-do list, like my go, go, go sort of mentality. And that really helped to cultivate my inner artist so that when I came back to acting, I really wanted to. And there was more parts of me that were being expressed, that there was just more levels of joy and more depth of expression that I could now, you know, be everywhere I go. So then I went back into acting, like started auditioning again. And then everything has changed to Zoom auditions, like Zoom everything. I just had acting class. So I have like 7 hours of acting class a week on Zoom. Zoom auditions. We were taping auditions anyway, so now I still do self-tape. So nothing's really changed that much, and honestly, it's been better because I don't have to commute to the casting place just for 30 seconds of dialogue. And now I could just like do it at home, and I just feel more fulfilled that way as well. And honestly, this has been the best thing for any Canadian actor because the pandemic has really leveled out like the star system. Because before, American actors would get flown in, so that's how they would make money, right? It's cheap to use Canada and to like rent stuff here for the States. And then they would bring their American actors over. So all of us here are just like, what about us? Like, I don't wanna have to move out to LA like forever to get a job here. So it's actually been really great. Like, I'm actually going out for roles that are so freaking delicious, so juicy, because like because the companies can't afford to quarantine someone for 2 weeks and then fly them back and forth, right? So it's actually worked out really well. Like, I'm really happy.
That's good. It sounds like a lot happened. I mean, I do like the part that you said you had to kind of shut down at the beginning and really took care of yourself. And that helped to create more almost creativity from within, right? So that's great. And then sounds like things are going really well. Thank you. Jennifer Tung.
So it took me a while to pivot. I mean, when all of this happened, just like I think most artists, like you lose the want, the desire to actually create and be artists. However, my dilemma becomes, because I'm a leader in leadership role with a few different organizations, well, I'm responsible for a number of other people. So even if I don't feel like doing something, or I don't feel like create, it doesn't mean that I can just go, okay, well, we're just going to shut the door on the children's choir and nobody's having rehearsals anymore. So because I couldn't do that, it actually forced me to sort of separate what my inner needs are to, like what I'm actually responsible for, and actually need to do. And so it took a couple of weeks, but I realized that, without being able to sing together, in an ensemble, which is why people join choirs, like in the first place, I quickly realized that we need to pivot to a much more educational model. Which is what we did. And so instead of doing ensemble singing, which we did a little bit through virtual choir recordings, we actually focus a lot more on skill building. for kids, music listening, reading music, really understanding structure, historical context, of music. And so we were able to continue actually, and the students were very thankful, that they still got to see their friends, even though it's just, online. And it was actually quite a successful, pivot. With opera, which is my other company, it's a little bit more complicated. We had to cancel our shows because you can't produce opera in person, and so throughout the summer me and the board had really thought about the ways of how we can sort of re-enter into this world, and have decided that we're going to put on, and we are actually, our first broadcast of the opening of our season is coming up this Saturday. And we're actually doing 2 1-act double bill. It's very short, like it's only going to be 90 minutes altogether, with 2 different operas, and they involve very few musicians. So it's like the first one is only 2 singers, and the second one is actually a solo work, with piano. And so we recorded it in a studio, setting, making sure that everybody is physically distant. So we had to reimagine how staging could happen with multiple people while keeping, the social distance. But one of the most important thing, and I think right now, is being able to experience live, performance. And so instead of doing recording and doing lots of editing, we had chosen to basically record like a live performance. We are doing some video editing, but the making music part was all live, and all the musicians are in the same place when they make it. So we're trying to create as much of a live experience as possible for our viewers.
Wonderful, thank you. Jennifer Lyon, what about you? How did you pivot? What have you been doing differently?
I didn't pivot right away. I spent like a few weeks, let's say weeks, in like the same pair of pants, being super depressed, and like I was just like, I don't know what to do. I just like, I'm a ghost. I'm walking around the house, and I can't go out. I can't do all the things. And then I kind of collected myself and looked around and was like, what do I have? What can I do? Because I was really focusing on like what I can't do and what's not available to me, and just being sad about it, which was okay. I needed to kind of just like steep in that for a little while. But then I just started looking around, like, what do I have? Okay, what are other people doing? What do I like? What's piquing my interest? What are people asking me for? And then I just started trying a bunch of stuff. I was just like alone, making mistakes. And I would go for a walk every day. And just sort of like Connie, you were saying, like connecting with your inner child. I had a puppy, so I'd take her for a hike every day, and I just started like getting into learning about different plants, and I fell in love with moss. I don't know why. And I just started these like random projects. Like I would do these macro photos of moss, and I would categorize what they were and learn all about them. And then I would like do a virtual shoot with someone and put them in the moss, and just like keep trying things and failing, and getting excited about something. I even made like a moss fascinator, and I like did a personal shoot with myself, and like looking back at it after this is all over, I'm just gonna laugh, and just like this would have never happened if COVID hadn't happened. And like it's exciting because I get to keep creating, and that is a privilege, I think, that I have. Because it has been really hard, and I know that it's way harder for a lot of other people, and a lot of people are struggling right now. So yeah. I think like acknowledging that it's okay to be like, I'm not okay right now, and then acknowledging that like you need the time to look around and see what's positive, like to recognize that lush green patch of moss on the hiking trail and go, ooh, what can I do with that?
Yeah, and I echo that. Like, I think you guys all had the same theme. Really took some time for yourself, and that's important at the beginning. Right? When something like this happened, none of us know what's going on. So take the time, center, and really figure out what your value and what you can offer back out. So I think, at least the 3 of you already mentioned that. Karen, what about you?
Turn my mic back on. Yeah, there's definitely similar themes, and almost to Connie's point where there was like two sides, right? There was your acting side and then you found your ukulele side. I had in my pharmaceutical consulting business, it was spring, so it's conference season. So I'm lined up to deliver education programs to, in one venue, 1,000 pharmacists on a stage, and we're getting ready to do this thing and get the program up and running and ready to deliver, and then boom, like we didn't know, right? You're just sitting there not knowing if you're actually going to be able to do it, and then quickly realizing that we couldn't. So I then, just when you put the plug in one area, it spurts out at the other, right? So that's where I jumped right onto the guitar aspect. And almost coincidentally with COVID and March 13th happening, and I always think of it, Friday, March 13th being the last normal day of my life, of most of our lives, all of our lives as we knew it, I had been working with a marketing coach. And so I just dialed her up and went, Lara, like, help me here with this whole guitar thing. And she worked with me on some great ideas. And so right away, I started planning. It was like, okay, someone shut off my pharmaceutical side. I can't connect with audiences that way. And that's what I love to do, is connect with audiences, share health, share information, make it beneficial for them, beneficial for me. That was gone. So then I turned to the guitar, and she got some really good ideas from this coach I had been working with. So right away, she said, I have a friend who's a chef. Let's do something for Mother's Day. So I worked virtually with a chef, and the chef made the Mother's Day meal. I provided music over dinner. We teed it up all over Zoom. And it was just like, all of a sudden I had this project, like I had some reason to get my repertoire up for that event, for Mother's Day event. So, and then same with yoga. I had just been working with the Yoga Shala and Waterdown live event for the Bruce Trail. COVID comes. So then they were still hungry to have guitar and yoga. So we moved it to Zoom, but I learned all my mistakes on Zoom. Like, I made all the mistakes, and we figured it out. Okay, you can't play over someone talking because there's only one voice. Zoom allows one voice, like all that stuff, right? You just like, okay, that didn't work. So, and then I did like a mindfulness session, a resiliency session with a friend of mine who has her own company where she does DIY type sessions, and she brought in a psychologist to work with everybody. So I must admit, I kind of did jump quickly because it was shut off the tap shut off one area, so I had to jump to the other. So my aha moment was actually in thinking about being creative about how could I work with a chef? How could I work with yoga again? How can I, it's almost to Jennifer's point, I can't do this, but what can I do?
Right. It is going back to the drawing board and figure out what you can offer and what else you can do in the moment, right?
Mm-hmm. And for me, because guitar was always something I was doing, all of a sudden it was the thing I was going to do.
Right.
So I was not going to bake. I was going to spend the time in my practice studio.
Right. Good for you. A lot of great stories of, being more creative, really, along the lines of learning new skills, learning new technology, collaborating with more. It sounds like there's a lot of that going on. I have to agree. I have a story about, the vlogging where we did a experimental session with a couple of athletes around doing live shows with the technology, and something did not work properly with the technology, so it did not happen at all. So we had the athletes on there for an hour and like nothing recorded, nobody saw anything. So it was a heavy price to pay, but I think we learned something there as well. As we are pivoting and changing so quickly, it is really good to keep in mind that you don't need to do something that's over the top. Like, keep it simple. Try to understand your goals, what you're trying to achieve, and use whatever is enough, just good enough to do those things. And be kind to yourself, because we were really trying really hard to, think about what else can we do? What other things can we do? And we really added too much onto our own plates, and that didn't go too successfully. It doesn't mean that it couldn't go successfully had we slowed down and take more time to learn all those new skills and took the time to kind of embrace all those new things. But at the same time, was that even necessary, right? So sometimes keeping it simple might be the right choice. So going back to the drawing board, figure out what you really can do and what you should do. So I honestly, those are lessons learned for us. But also, again, benefits though, because we were able to work with a lot of other people, right? So what are some benefits that did you guys see in creating the way that you have been now? Even though you may not be used to it, but now you have been doing it for a while, what are the benefits have you been seeing? Jennifer, Tung.
I think one of the major benefits is that I actually get to connect with my choristers or anything that's an ensemble on a much more personal one-on-one basis. Because we aren't able to do ensemble singing together, I actually started offering my choristers short one-on-one sessions, like every week. So I actually get to know their voice and actually get to know them, which I wouldn't be able to do, in a normal year with 30 kids, like once a week, I still wouldn't be able to connect with them, like this way. So I thought that was really actually one of the biggest things, and I'm actually able to focus on much more personalized education, and so I'm able to understand what they need, and give them a more personalized and better, like music education, for them. So I thought that was one of the big plus, and even with my private students, it's not possible for me to accompany the piano and them sing at the same time, not in the space. The latency issue with the internet, the students are actually having to develop much better inner rhythm, much better other musical skills to be able to have lessons. And so as a matter of fact, what's interesting is that I see my students grow in a different way than they would have if we were actually doing this in person.
Very interesting. Very interesting. What about for you, Jennifer, Lyon, for photography? What have you benefited?
I think so with the virtual shoots, and if you guys aren't aware of what they are, it's kind of out there. It's like you get someone on FaceTime on your phone and you get them to pose, and then you place them posing in like a curated setup, like Sparks or Moss or whatever it is. So being able to just connect with someone on the internet to be able to photograph them has expanded who I can photograph. I don't have to drive, they don't have to drive, we just call each other. And I've also had to be very resourceful because I don't want to go out shopping if I don't have to. And a typical like portrait shoot, if my client asked for flowers, I would go and I would buy flowers, and I would set it all up. But now it was like, okay, well, what flowers are in bloom outside right now that I can go hike and grab? And like, what do I have at my disposal? Like I did a shoot with a woman who's I think she was a chiropractor physiotherapist. And she was like, yeah, I want to pose with like muscles or, like body parts. And I was like, oh, my mom was a doctor. I can go get those like anatomical joints and things. She has them in a box in her farmhouse. I drive over there with my mask on and I would get everything ready. Which like I have to think more, I have to plan more, and I think that's why I got into like identifying plants outside, because I was like, oh yes, the New England aster that comes out in August, so then I can use it, and it has purple and yellow in it, it's not poisonous.
You become more resourceful, right? Because of limited things, and that's awesome.
Like, again, I'm trying to be positive because it's hard not to just like dwell on what you can't do. But yeah, like I've met so many really interesting people with the virtual shoots, including someone that you connected me with, Lily.
Yes, I was just going to say, yeah, Jennifer did a wonderful job on one of our pro bono clients, and we're going to be doing a feature blog on that soon. It's a wonderful experience for someone to go through that. And the surprise thing is the other person on the other end is completely blind. So for, Jennifer to be taking a photo through the internet and get her to feel like it's a photo shoot, that's pretty challenging and creative thing to do. Right?
Yeah, it was very challenging. But when you approached me with it, I thought about it and I was like, wow, that is so cool. Like, let's do it. Let's 100%, let's do it. And we did it. And I think it turned out really well.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And it was like, you had to change how you communicate with people, because when I'm with you, I'd be like, oh, would you mind if I like adjust your hair? Or could you, turn like this? But if the person can't see and they have to, keep themselves in frame on FaceTime, and then I'm posing them in the creation on my side, it was just, there was so much going on, and it was like I was really nervous, but no one knew we were on FaceTime. It was easy to hide it. So
Thank you, Jennifer. Karen, what about you? What benefits have you seen in the work that you've been doing?
Well, I've got three main benefits. One has been, and I think Jennifer, everyone will understand this, is the polishing to perform. When you have to perform, you do a live thing, or you might play for a few friends in your house, that's one thing. But when you're now doing something that's going on camera, that has the potential to be recorded, like this session, you're very, very aware of the details. So it forced how I practice, it forced a complete change in my approach to the music. The detail, the attention to detail just went up 100-fold because of that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is saying yes to more things. So in the past, maybe I'd like, oh, maybe, yeah, you know, to Jennifer's point, it was just like a yes. It was a hell yes. It was just always yes, because why not? Let's try it. So that was the second thing. And the third thing was, for me, was having more of a social media voice. So yes, I had a Facebook, it was closed, and I was really encouraged to start an Instagram. I had one, but I really then just opened it up, started making it something decent. And I must admit that the scariest thing was tied to that whole Mother's Day event with the chef. It was my first time, and now I continue to post my playing online. So I actually played a piece for my mom, her favorite piece. I recorded it. I only played it 5 million times to get it to the point where I wanted to post it. And I sat there with my finger over the post button, like practically sweating, because I was like, I'm really posting this. Like, what will people think? What will my friends think? What will the guitar community think? Oh my God, I'm going to be judged. And finally I just went blip, and it was so well received, but it was the most terrifying thing I had done. You know that Lululemon bag that had like all those words on it? And one of them was, do one thing a day that scares you.
Yes. Oh, did we lose?
Nope, that was it. Those were my three things. It was
amazing.
The Instagram presence, more of posting my music online, and just sharing it and doing it for the love of sharing it.
That's so amazing. It's so true though. Put yourself out there. Right? Connie, talking about put yourself out there. I know you did a lot of creative things during that whole time, and what benefits did you see?
Yeah, so I have two things. One, it was that it's like my perception completely shifted. It's like I had my dreams up over here, up in the air, and what was like real for me. And during COVID, I was able to just like be like, oh, they're the same. So that was absolutely phenomenal. And that has to do with what everyone's been sharing, in the sense that like, I'm ready, you know, I'm like, I don't need to prepare as an actor, in a way, or like to speak. Let's just say just to speak. Because before I was just like, oh my God, I have to prepare this speech. I have to drill this. I have to have it completely memorized, and then just make it really stressful for myself, as opposed to just being like, okay, I already know what I'm going to say. And if I don't, that's fine. It'll come to me in the moment. So there's a lot of presence I've just been living like deeply present, which has been so satisfying and very fulfilling. And just knowing that I'm already worthy of everything that I desire, and it's just on its way. And then the second one is that I've always seen myself as a global leader. I'm really committed to transforming the world so that everyone is authentically expressed and that they're accepted and heard. And so I always had this deep desire to be a global leader, but because I'm based in Toronto, like I was very I just had it, like my vision was I'm here physically, so I'm gonna go to these meetings, I'm gonna go meet people in Toronto. But then when the pandemic hit, I was like, oh wait, I can meet people virtually. So now I'm a part of like this manifestation group that's like all over the world. Like these women were just all talking from all over the world. I'm like, oh yeah, like I can do this. Like I've now met so many people, so many leaders from all over the world. And I was like, this is exactly what I want. We can all brainstorm and be together. Like my time zones are so good now. I'm like, what time we talking? What time zone? Because I know I'm ready to talk. Right? So yeah, those are the things that have benefited me
Yeah, I must agree. Like this COVID has really surprisingly brought a lot more people together and made this whole world smaller in a way. And on our vlogging experience, for example, like I said, the live sports events were closing, nothing was happening. We don't get to see athletes and fans and anybody. But then, you know, my friend and I were just recently doing a big project. We actually got people sending videos to, you know, become a part of our bigger project video, sending videos from all over the world, pretty much from every continent. And that's phenomenal. Like we would have never had that kind of span of reach if it wasn't for COVID. We would have never even thought of doing that in the first place. And not only have we thought about it, we were actually be able to achieve it because, again, I have to thank the social media as well, because, you know, I found that social media has really helped us to also stick together, support each other. And whether it's, you know, for sports or for music or for whatever it is that your common interest, you know, you find those people that have those common interests and have that common value as you, and you continue to learn things together and support each other through it. So that's been really helpful as well. So totally echoing with a lot of what you guys are saying. It's wonderful. I know there's a question coming in. I think I'm going to combine a couple of questions here because it's pretty relevant. So I'm going to ask the question, you know, what suggestions do you ladies have, or strategies do you have for our audience that will help them expand their creativity through the difficult times? But at the same time, could you also let us know what you're thinking of doing as COVID continues? Let's start with, let's start with Jennifer Lyon first.
Oh, I'm first.
So two things. One is the strategy for someone else to expand their creativity, but then what else are you doing as COVID continues?
Okay, so I had this conversation with a good friend of mine recently, and we were talking about different ways of like crafting or creating. And she told me that she gets like paralyzed by perfectionism, and she won't start anything unless she has every single thing she needs for that project. It's all there and perfect, and then she can just do it, and at the end it'll be perfect. And I always find that she's never making anything. I'm like, what are you working on? She's like, I don't know, I have a pile of stuff, that's all I'm doing. So I think my suggestion would be to try and find joy in doing it. Like, just say, today I'm going to do this random thing. I'm not used to it, I've never done it before, but I'm going to do it for 20 minutes, and we'll just see what happens. You know, if it's a painting, you don't like it, burn it later, or, you know, whatever it is. And kind of like try the process. And no one needs to know. You don't have to post it on social media. It could be something you do randomly by yourself, or, you know, with whoever you live with. So, and I think for me, moving forward as we go into this second wave,
or even beyond,
I'm going to try and focus on the positive. I'm going to try and be grateful every day for what I do have. And I'm going to just like expand and try a hell of a lot more mediums. Like, because photography, you can take a picture of anything. So I want to try playing with cement. I want to try building like a huge indoor plant installation where you walk in there and you feel calm. I want to do like everything, and I'm just going to like try and pace myself, but then I'm also going to dive in. So that's my plan for the next little while.
Be brave to try different things.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Karen, what about you? What suggestions do you have for others to expand their creativity, and what are you going to continue to do beyond, and even beyond COVID?
Yes, I concur with Jennifer. I believe that people need to focus on the process, not the outcome. So I know I spoke about posting some stuff online, but there was a whole heck of a lot of process that happened before I got to my outcome. And the process was where I just found I was in like a Zen zone. Like I just hit this like sort of really like in flow state, I guess that you call it, where you're just creating and you're practicing and you're improving and you're learning and you're failing, and it's all happening at once, and it's okay. So just do it. And when you get into that zone of it, you lose track of time. You don't know where 2 hours went. and then you come out and you, wow, that felt really good. So whatever it is you want to try and work on, focus on the process, not necessarily the outcome, because the outcome will come. And for myself, it's more around going with the flow. If I had said to myself in middle of March, by October 20th or whatever day it is today, I will have done X, Y, and Z, I would never have believed myself. So the fact that I went with the flow, I had a great journey, and I'm planning on continuing that.
Oh, that sounds awesome. What about you, Connie?
So I would suggest for someone who's, what is it, unleashing their creativity? Is that the question?
Yeah, so what would suggestion for and strategy for continuing expanding creativity? And then what would you be doing as well?
I would definitely recommend to do nothing, and to not even meditate. It's literally just like do nothing. No music, no sound, like nothing. I think there's something actually so beautiful about just being yourself, just as you are. Like at the beginning of COVID, I literally laid outside the whole day, or like on the ground, like sprawled and like, you could call me crazy, but I was just like, no, I'm actually just being. And like my parents would step over me and I'd be like, whatever, I'm not moving. Like I just feel like doing this. Because like what happened was like I felt a deep call to like just hang out with Mother Earth, and there's like a deep connection to when you are actually so silent and just so like, I was just really tapping into my intuition by just doing nothing. And that was the first time I really gave myself the opportunity to do that my whole life, because I've done meditation retreats, but there's still something very structured about it. So what I suggest is actually take away structure.
Nice.
So, and from that, ideas start to birth, and like you start to really ignite your intuition, and that creativity comes from your intuition.
Yeah, somebody used to say boredom is the mother of creativity. So you pretty much put yourself in that relaxed state, and you kind of connect with yourself and center yourself, and then like you said, intuition takes over, and you become more creative. Like it.
Relaxing. Like you're allowed to be upset and angry. That's actually a part of the process, like a part of the unearthing and like the expression that needs to be had, right? So I just welcome all of it. And also in the terms of creativity, like it really is a cycle. Like it starts with nothing. Like you can't always be go, go, go. You actually have to take time to just like, if you're gonna start a new project or you feel like the next wave of something coming, like, cause that's where I'm at right now. I feel something coming. So this, forever, how long, I'm just kind of opening up my space and just leaving it to like allow for ideas to come in. And then once I feel the call, that's when I'm going to take, like, I know I'm going to be taking action and complete it. And then it just starts again. So that's like the cycle of creation.
Right.
And for me, it's my self-care routine has gone from like nothing to 3 hours in the morning. It's the whole morning just like, in the bathtub, like doing my morning rituals, praying, writing, like that I never want to take away. I think that's something that I really got, is just like peace within myself. So that's moving forward, is to come from a place of no stress and creating from there. But yeah, morning routines, like self-care routines.
Great suggestions.
Yeah.
Thank you, Connie. Yeah. Jennifer Tong, what about you?
So I think I agree with what everybody else has said, like so far. But perhaps, this is one of the point of view for me, is that art continues to challenge people, which is one that's great thing, about art, is that it continues to challenge you. So I would actually, challenge people to go and find something that you don't know about, or, you may feel uncomfortable before trying, to actually go and expose yourself to things that you are not necessarily familiar with, comfortable with. You never know. I mean, you may hate it, and that's fine, but at least like what it is and what you like, and you may actually discover some new passions by exposing yourself to things that you have never thought that you would have time or would actually want to participate. like before. For me, I mean, like continuing what's been very interesting is that learning to, I mean, just like I'm sure, all of you, I'm very much a perfectionist. So doing things and recording things online and putting them out there has been very difficult. I'm okay with performing in front of thousands of people, but ask me to record something and it's one of the things I hate the most. So I've actually learned to really appreciate the process, rather than the product. And it actually gets me to, like focus on other ideas of what I can highlight. As an ensemble, like person, when ensemble is not possible, you start to think about, well, what are the other benefits of what I'm doing, like right now that I can highlight, what is possible. So it actually forces me to create in a completely different way. And I'm making different kinds of connections, like with people that I usually make connections with. And it's actually been very interesting and eye-opening and amazing.
You've recently also partnered up with somebody to demonstrate a new software or a new technology as well on YouTube. I've seen that.
So actually one of my really good friends, Dr. Lucas Wang, who is a pianist, and he lives in Vancouver, and he is actually trying to solve this problem of being able to collaborate, like online. And so he's been, he's also he's never had a computer science degree, but he's been very interested in programming since he was young, and so he learned it on his own while he was doing, his music degree. And he's really starting to come up with a very viable product that's possible. So I've been helping him, to do demonstrations and, and giving him ideas, and we try different things, and sometimes it fails miserably, but then we go, okay, so we know this doesn't work, so
That's
how
right.
can we actually, change it? And honestly, you really start to realize that failure, which we've all put such a negative spin on that word, is actually a must-have ingredient in order to succeed.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that, really understanding that and changing the idea of what failure actually means changes a lot of things.
Wonderful, amazing suggestions. I'm going to throw a couple in myself. I think from my own perspective, being curious and learning new skills, that's just a continuous thing. It's just second nature to me, and that's going to continue on beyond COVID, and that's going to connect to anything that I do, whether it's creativity or professionally. But also, I think collaboration. I found that this COVID things really taught us to connect with so many more people, reach out to people who are on the same wavelength, and collaborate. And just no different like this, right? A lot of this may not have happened had it not been COVID. I probably wouldn't have reached out to Connie in Toronto, being situated in Waterloo and Kitchener, right? But having that opportunity and then continue to develop that across the globe in various projects. So collaboration, I think, is a huge thing too. So that's a couple of things that I like to throw in the bucket here. I guess we are coming down to about 5 minutes too. There is a question that is on the list, and I think we addressed the audience question with that last one. But there's last one that I maybe not gonna be asking everyone, like, just pipe up if you have something to say. But the question is, with all the changes that you've seen and we've experienced, have that or any of those experiences altered your view of what creativity is, to start with? Anyone, you can jump in.
Is it okay?
Yeah, go ahead, Karen.
It hasn't changed my view of creativity, but it's changed how we value creativity. And the value of it. I mean, the arts are always underfunded. I'm a strong believer in funding the arts. There's the hashtag going around on social media, art is work. I'm finding my own way and my own voice in how to value what I provide now. And I just think it's so important for the art community, for professionals, for anyone contributing to the arts, both on the doing side and also on the receiving side, to value that.
Wonderful.
I think for me, I don't think that it necessarily changed the view of creativity, but rather really exposing the inner strength of the art itself and the people that are involved, you know, like in it. That artists are way more resilient than, you know, than we all thought. I mean, we've all known that, you know, like art is a difficult field, you know, like to get into, but throughout this time and how much people are willing to collaborate, you know, with each other. And when, as you were saying, you know, about collaboration, and I think one of the big things about collaboration that is so amazing is that we don't have to be strength or strong in everything that we do, but through collaboration we're able to use everybody else's strength to create something that we would have never been able to create before. And Absolutely. I think that that's one of the big things that's perhaps evolved, not so much different about creativity, is that, you know, you're seeing a lot more collaborations happening, and you're seeing that projects that would have never happened or never even dreamed of before is actually happening right now because of this atmosphere.
So true. So true. All right, I'm going to wrap it up here, not to cut anyone else short, but we are only 2 minutes left. So thank you so much, ladies, for this wonderful discussion around creativity tonight, and sharing so many amazing ideas and strategies and experiences with everyone. And so thank you for attending this as well as for our audience. Thank you for tuning in your evening, and hope that you have enjoyed the session and found it useful in your creative journeys. Our next Ignite Our Inner Sparks session will be November 17th at 7 p.m. as well. It's another Tuesday, and the topic will be mastering stress management. So details will follow. Hopefully we'll see more of you there as well. Tomorrow, I'll be sending out some surveys to gain some feedback from all of you as well, to have a better understanding of how well we're doing. And hopefully you can take a couple of minutes to reply and answer to that survey to help us continuously improve these sessions as well. If you have any questions about our Inner Sparks, our sessions for the Ignite Our Inner Sparks, or any of the guests that you want to get in contact with, feel free to connect with us at ourinnersparks@gmail.com, or just visit ourinnersparks.com, and we'll get you hooked up with any information or any person that you're looking to connect with. And again, thank you very much for Veronica and Idea Exchange and for hosting these events. They're always amazing and well organized. And hopefully this was a great session for everybody. And thank you very much. Have a great evening.